Well, good morning and welcome to Sunrise Daily today. I'm Chamberlain Oso.
Good morning. I'm Neota Igbe.
Well, on behalf of Malkwe, thank God it's Friday. Good morning and welcome. I am Bukola Koka.
It's the 8th day of December, ancient closer to Christmas. Good morning. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thank God it's Friday indeed, and a Friday to wake up with, who was it that says, you actually called him quintessential Sanusi, in the sense that the former CBN governor always speaks, how do you say now, always in the West. And when we used to watch cowboy movies, he shoots from his hip. So he shoots direct, like that. And he came up yesterday at that conference, at that summit of bank directors, and he made a statement. I don't know, wait, you know what? Let's see if we can hear that statement from the man himself.
Let me advise that this idea of the president being petroleum minister is not a good idea. The last president was minister of petroleum for 8 years. When I was governor of Central Bank, we had a petroleum minister. So when I talked about NNPC, I could attack Dizani. Now nobody can talk about petroleum because 8 years, if you talk, you're attacking the president. We need that buffer. Somebody has to be there. So a minister has to be there who is held accountable by Nigerians. Why is NNPC not able to bring in dollars? I'm sorry, this is the question that cost me my job. I will continue asking this question until NNPC is fixed or until I die. Where are the dollars? We need to shine light on NNPC. The finance minister cannot tell you that today, this is how many barrels of oil that we produce and exported. You can only rely on NNPC telling him. Those barrels are revenue. They belong to finance. We've been talking about this for 10 years. We are no longer paying subsidy. So where are the dollars? Before it was under recovery. Now we don't have under recovery. Where is the money? NNPC is the most opaque oil company in the world. When I was in the central bank for 15 years, they had not been audited. So, you know, the central bank is easy to attack, but the central bank does not manufacture dollars. And you want to have stability in the exchange rate, you've got to go back to those issues we raised in 2014. You need to follow the money. And I'm glad the CME is here. This is the #1 priority.
Okay, so yes, he's spoken. And going back down history, he said when he was in the seat of the governor of Central Bank, there was a petroleum minister. And before, that was, I think, under Goodluck Jonathan, President Goodluck Jonathan. Before then was President Yar'Adua that had a petroleum minister. In his words, having a petroleum minister separate from the office of the president will give more room for scrutiny as regards what's happening. There's something that I'm learned growing up about division of labor. When the labor is divided amongst different parts, different experts handling different things, and then there is one head who supervises everything that everybody does, you tend to see more of accountability, and then there is more productivity because everybody's focused on one thing. I just want to imagine being a president and then having to be looking to the Ministry of Petroleum to see what's going on there, how are they doing. You will not, that ministry will not be getting the full attention that it's supposed to. But some will argue, but there is a Minister of State, yes. But the job of the minister and the Minister of State are not the same. They play different roles, and these days we have Minister for Petroleum, Gas, and then we have Minister for Petroleum. What was the other one now that we have? But we have 2 Ministers of State for Petroleum in Nigeria. What's wrong with having a Minister of Petroleum? Just a question. Okay. Ayo.
Well, quintessential former Emir of Kano and former CBN governor there. When he speaks, you know, all of us get uncomfortable in our seats and we have to reflect on the bombshells that he drops, and quite a lot to reflect on. And, you know, there's very little that is new about some of the things that he is challenging the federal government and indeed all stakeholders, Nigerians, you know, collectively now to reflect on. And, you know, it's about the supervision of the oil and gas ministry, with NNPC being a very key body. You know, one of the questions that we should ask the APC-led federal government is, in the past 8 years plus now, what have they discovered, so to speak, that has warranted or you know, made it compulsory for the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to be the supervising minister for petroleum resources? Now, you know, the argument could go thus that, you know, we require more accountability if the president supervises that ministry. But since, you know, the past 8+ years, has there been more efficiency in the operations of that ministry? You know, the former CBN governor is asking for the dollars. And we should also take a look at the excess crude account, at our reserves. You know, why have we been recording diminishing figures rather than increasing figures? Okay, let's say that, you know, we've had to deal with crude oil theft for some time now. But then again, there's been some recovery, particularly since the introduction of, you know, some measures that are a departure from the norm, i.e., employing the services of, you know, indigenous security operatives to man that area. So when we have that, and crude oil reserves, you know, crude oil sale has increased, why haven't we begun to also experience, you know, some efficiency in that regard? Don't forget the report by the Nigeria Extractive Industries Transparency Initiatives asked us to take a look yet again at the NNPC, that 80% of the financial liabilities of government, you know, is owed by the NNPC. And then another report, you know, following the committee set up by the government to reconcile the NNPC's account, says in spite of that, you know, that the federal government is still owing the NNPC to the tune of 4 trillion naira plus. But we must listen yet again to Emir Sanusi, who says that, you know, after him, you know, during his time, the NNPC had not been audited for 15 years. So the scrutiny, you know, of the financial books of the NNPC, yet again, should go way back beyond that time. We could go on and on about questions that we should ask. Ayo, I'm sure that you have more questions.
Well, perhaps a good way to start would be to look at perspectives. When did the president of Nigeria become the Minister of Petroleum? When did that trend start? Well, there's someone who dated back even before the Obasanjo government came into power. At some point, former head of State General Abdulsalami Abubakar, GCFR, appointed himself Minister of Petroleum. And then the former President Obasanjo also did the same. And of course, President Buhari has also done the same. The question that I want to ask, first of all, is, okay, yeah, you said questions. What is it that made these heads of state decide
Absolutely.
that the Ministry of Petroleum should come under them? Further perspectives will probably give us an understanding. What are the, first of all, what are the agencies of government under the Minister of Petroleum, and what are some of its responsibilities? Some of the agencies under the Ministry of Petroleum include the NNPCL, the Nigerian Upstream Regulatory Commission, Petroleum Training Institute, Petroleum Technology Development Fund, Nigeria Nuclear Regulatory Authority, Nigeria Midstream and Downstream,
NMDPRA.
Yeah, Petroleum Regulatory Authority, and of course the Ministry of Petroleum, the civil servants in Abuja. So what are the things that make it so important? Well, there are ministers and there are ministers, but every one of us would know that there is the job that the Minister of Petroleum has to do is quite a lot. Now, the Ministry of Petroleum is Nigeria's cash cow, whether we want to agree with it or not. That is Nigeria's cash cow. And as, you know, Emir Sanusi was asking, where are the dollars? Perhaps that's the question to be asked. Should we say that because the president is the Minister of Petroleum, we should not ask questions? Well, that's part of what the former CBN governor said. However, we will ask the questions. So, dear Mr. President, where are the dollars? Where how effective or efficient has things been? Well, I'm just going to, maybe I have the laxity to cut the president a bit of slack, because we have a federal government that has more than 1,500 ministries, departments, and agencies. So filling those ones is quite a lot. Perhaps it's begun to do that, you know, little by little. The Ministry of Petroleum definitely is one that every one of us has our eyes on. At the time when the president was Minister of Petroleum, oil theft continued for 30 straight years and no one could track it. Was that part of the reason that the president or heads of state at the time decided, I'm going to supervise this ministry myself? Have we been able to nip the issues in the bud that have now become full-grown butterflies that are getting old? Have those issues been identified that informed the head of state or the president appointing himself as Minister of Petroleum? If those issues have not been addressed, then perhaps that calls for a question for the president to convene some kind of meeting that will address these issues. In the meantime, where are the dollars? Chamberlain.
Well, guys, I think it's really straightforward. I mean, he said it all. He's asked those questions. And so what we should then be thinking is, so if this is the case and this has been going on for a while, why is it that they've allowed it this way to keep going like this? So we should then think, I mean, somebody somewhere, maybe high up there, is benefiting from the chaos, if you could describe it as such. And besides, why do presidents always make themselves ministers of petroleum? What's going on? Why is it always that way? Well, with all of these questions is put out there, I think we'll now just go back and now wonder, okay, so will we decide to reform the NNPC or what? So, and when you say it's Nigeria's cash cow, is it really Nigeria's cash cow or politicians' cash cow? Is it where they get money to fund politics or what? Why is it the most opaque oil industry in the world? What happens? Why did they keep it that way? So the questions are all out there for the authorities to go on and address them. Let's see how they will respond. Because Minister of Finance was there when he said that, look, he doesn't have any reporting, any structure that reports to him that monitors to ensure that if they tell you it's 2 million barrels or 1 million barrels, it is so. So all of those things have been with us for a long time. Why do we allow these things go on this way? So we'll wait to see how government responds to all of this. Nothing new. He said all of those things there. So I guess the ball is now in the court of the government. Will the president say, okay, I'll do something differently from my predecessors, either as president or as Minister of Petroleum or what? I guess we'll see that. So, by the way, we'd love to hear from you all out there what you think of some of these matters. So let the experts talk to us, what they think might be going on that, you know, many people may not be aware of. We'd like to hear from you. So that said, let's jump right in and take you through some of the dailies here this morning. Look at Nigerian Tribune. They're following up from what has been going on, what transpired yesterday, the visit of the vice president to Kaduna. And so they lead with Kaduna drone strike. The guilty will be punished, Tinubu vows. Says Tudunbiri community to be rebuilt on the Fulako initiative. DHQ statement unnecessary, ACF says. So you need to go there and see which of the statements now of the military is the ACF referring to. So that's what's going on now. So, yeah, I mean, several other scenarios here. NJC recommends retirement of Osun High Court judge, declines Adeleke's 11 request on CJ, sets a panel to probe judicial officers. So is it about time? Judicial reforms, who's going to do it? Will they happen? I guess all of that are out there. That's Tribune this morning.
The Guardian's the next one, and they have something else they're leading with. Female genital mutilation, government dithers as painful initiation to womanhood flourishes. And then you see the graphics on the front page there with some statistics that are quite alarming. And hopefully something will be done. But let me just pick out this one. Only 13 states have laws that expressly prohibit FGM. But that's what the Guardian's leading with. And besides that, you have, towards the festive season, one-way local flight tickets hit 200,000 naira ahead of festive travels. So, might have begun to think of how other ways to celebrate Christmas with the family. And then this sad one, 10 Lafayette University students kidnapped by gunmen again. What's up with Lafayette? Well, let's leave it there for The Guardian.
And turn next to Daily Independent this morning. But, you know, Neote, I can't resist the urge to comment on that big story on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, which also says that only 13 states have laws that expressly prohibit female genital mutilation. And spouses of governors have been meeting in recent times, and they have called for the domestication of the Violence Against Persons and Prohibitions, Act in all states of the Federation, such that these practices, harmful traditional practices, can be a thing of the past. And we need more education in that regard, particularly amid the 16 days of activism on sexual and gender-based violence. Up next now is Daily Independent, and it continues to look at the situation in Igabi local government following that accidental airstrike. Listen to this one. Army, Kaduna, airstrike on civilians. Northern groups finger lack of coordination by the military. Call for independent investigation over killing of 120 villagers. The death toll is up, by the way. The second rider, protesters storm NAS, ask Defense Minister Badaru to resign. PDP demands thorough investigation, compensation. If you're interested, you find all of these on page 29 inside Daily Independent. And there's this one at the bottom strip, which is just as concerning. Expatriates steal jobs meant for Nigerians. NAS alleges, says foreign prisoners working in Nigeria's construction companies. Foreign prisoners working in Nigeria's construction companies. By the way, it emerged yesterday during budget defense that there's more budgeted to feed the dogs in the correctional service than to feed the inmates. What cannot happen in Nigeria does not exist.
Oh, well, it does exist, actually. It does exist. The Vanguard newspaper this morning has this on its lead, as its lead story, and it's still about the Kaduna era. We'll be 100% sure before bombing targets. That's according to DHQ. Says 81 killed, 70 injured in mishap. Adds it's unpatriotic to ethnicize disaster. Equip military with more accurate surveillance technology, can urges FG. Ohaneze condemns act, seeks thorough investigation. U.S. urges use of AI to reduce accidental bombings. Culprits must be punished, according to the president. ACF calls for redeployment of GOC 1 division and others. Sanction culprits, compensate victims. CSO, Islamic Forum, tell FG, DSS, COAS. Army solicits more funding. All of that you'll find on pages 5 and 2 this morning. Several other stories on the front page, but just before we exit the paper, Mr. and Mrs. is talking about something interesting this morning. And you may want to take a look at it. It's talking about a man who knows his onions. And how does the paper put it this morning? Look at it. Very interesting. So the missus is out of shot. Honey, please get me some onions on your way back. And Mr. asks, and what does that make me? And Mr. Mrs. responds, a man who knows his onions. Chamberlain, do you know your onions?
Sorry, I don't take onions. Look at New Telegraph this morning. New Telegraph is a news story here today. NCS, sorry to disappoint you. NCS spends more money to feed dogs than inmates, ascribed to CG. Whoa, okay. There's a direct quote, by the way. How can you look us eye to eye and tell us you feed a grown man in Nigeria with 750 naira each day, and you feed each of the dogs under your care with 800 naira a day? Wow. Okay. Food for thought. Maybe you can add onions to it too, if you do. So, so definitely, having brought this up, you don't expect it to continue this way. So, if you're alarmed about it, National Assembly, then they should do something about it. So that's what we expect. But one other thing that needs us as a country and the leadership of the country to do something about is this next story. P&G's exit. Man, LCCI predict doomsday for Nigeria. Says economy lacks buffers to withstand exodus. So you can imagine how many jobs we're losing. If the president is, chief marketing officer for the country, granted, but asking companies to come in, and then you see this narrative out there, you definitely know that people will think, okay, how about this economic team? And they keep saying Nigeria has a very difficult business operating environment. So, again, of course, all of that questions about ease of doing business comes to fruition and comes to the fore when these kind of stories are there. So what are we going to do about this? These are the kind of people we should be listening to tell us what is the problem, what do we need to address. Just go look at their book and then adjust the complaints there and watch the figures go up. NJC sacks judge for misconduct, sets up 11 panels to probe others. And many will say, where have they been all this while when there's been a lot of hue and cry for these judgments going back and forth? And by the way, this judge that has been sacked, is it connected to anything? You check.
Definition of misconduct is relative. And maybe we can add onions to it now, since today is about onions, an onion day. But I have, I have the Nigerian Observer, and they lead with this one. I mean, it's close to that time of the year. Traders optimistic. Load up Christmas shelves despite economic downturn. Is onions part of what they're loading up?
Life goes on.
Life goes on, indeed. So load up Christmas shelves despite economic downturn. That's what the Observer is leading with. And then that story about the feeding, spending more money on dogs than the inmates is also here on the front page and continues on page 4. But what's interesting is also the picture you see there. I mean, it's a Friday, so we could look a little bit into Nollywood. Talks about marriages in Nollywood that have weathered the storms. So these Nollywood celebrity marriages have weathered the storms of fame. I can't imagine the ease with which they are carrying on, but it's good to know that they can still carry on.
Storms of fame, huh?
Yes, fame comes with its own storms. But that's it from the Nigerian Observer.
And up next is the Daily Trust newspaper this morning, which also trails the Kaduna incident. And here's the big story. Kaduna killings, not a mistake, says Gumi. And there's a host of riders here. Listen to them. Army's attack against Air Force advice. Sources. Against Air Force advice. That's ascribed to sources. Officers grumble over lack of synergy between services. That's an age-long conversation, by the way. There's more. We've learned our lessons. Our operations remain joint. That's coming from the defense headquarters. And the last of the riders says, Tinubu vows to punish anyone found culpable. And we have the inset picture of the front page story of the vice president who visited the victims of the incident at the hospital yesterday, and he made quite a number of promises. Let's look at some stories, just under the nameplate. Excitement as $20 billion Dangote refinery receives crude oil. Nigerians are waiting. Apart from asking where the dollars are, where is the petroleum within Nigeria, not the ones coming from the high sea? And there's this one: gunmen kidnap Nasarawa varsity students. We're still waiting for the return of the ones kidnapped on their way to Sokoto. And lastly, civil defense yet to produce media trust radio tower shields indicted operatives. That's it for the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
This Nigeria newspaper is also interested in the dog story. And this is the way it puts it. National Assembly kicks against preferential treatment for dogs at correctional centers. 750 naira spent to feed each inmate per day as against 800 naira for a dog. NCS Controller General, you can't feed innocent convicted Nigerians in your custody with this paltry sum. So what's the point of changing Nigeria Prison Service to Nigeria Correctional Service?
Who's being corrected? You know, that's a good one to reflect on.
Wait, this is per day, 750 naira.
If the ones supposedly in charge of correction are feeding, innocent convicted Nigerians with 750 naira, how can the ones intended to be corrected become corrected?
If you are watching us, please try to imagine what you can do with 250 naira per meal. Just try. A loaf of bread now is at least 1,000 naira. Anyway, I can't even imagine it. At the bottom of the page, I won't be distracted by sponsored protesters. Wike tells traducers. Abuja natives charge IGP to investigate sponsors of protest. Several other stories you'll find on the front page of this Nigerian newspaper today. But that's this Nigerian newspaper and a look at some of the dailies. We're back right after now. The issues are all lined up. Just stay with us.
This gathering heralds a new dawn for the Niger Delta Development Commission with the swearing-in of the newly constituted board. The permanent secretary of the Niger Delta Affairs give them their charge.
As we embark on this new chapter, we are reminded of the President's 8-point agenda, as well as the ministerial mandates, a testament to the commitment to the development of the Niger Delta region.
Then comes the oath of office.
I do solemnly swear discharge of my official duties or as may be specially permitted by the President. So help me God.
Which is followed by the inauguration conducted by the Minister, Mr. Abubakar Momo.
Having taken the oath of office, the board is hereby inaugurated. We need to be very much conversant with the 8 presidential priorities of Mr. President, ranging from food security, ending of poverty, inclusivity, job creation, anti-corruption stance, rule of law, and all.
Some of the new members share their optimism for the days ahead.
Once you have sincerity of purpose, and that should help in guiding the process. Even before today's inauguration, as a board, we met informally. We've had interactions, and we've made it clear that we need to move away from the old order. Everybody, the minister said it, NDDC has a reputation for so many things that are not very pleasant, and we're going to change that narrative.
What is my concern, largely, is how best the trajectory, the negative trajectory that has bedeviled Niger Delta Development Commission before now will be surmounted. We're going to do new things, quite new things, so that we'll achieve better results.
These new board of the NDDC faces a significant task as they embark on this national assignment to improve the infrastructure of the Niger Delta region and thereby improve the economy and well-being of the residents of the region. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
All right, welcome back. Yes, indeed, jobs, jobs, jobs. That's going to be the focus of our next subject matter here today, with some of those companies you've highlighted exiting, and some of the analysis there say that that is about 310 billion naira worth of assets that has left this country. And so you know what that means, the implication of that to the economy will definitely raise a lot of concern.
You know, talking about companies leaving this country, this is not the first. I mean, I think it was last year or there where we heard about SmithKline. But before then, we've had other companies leave. And one time we took a drive down one of the streets in Port Harcourt, one of those times in Port Harcourt, and noticed some of the companies that used to be were all shut down. They're not there anymore. Companies that some of us knew growing up, they're not there anymore. And you begin to wonder, how far? When would can things be reversed? We keep talking about we need to, again, create jobs. Government can provide all the jobs for all the people. So when the private sector doesn't have a conducive environment to work, how would the jobs come in?
Well, that's part of what we're going to be focusing on this morning. Several commissions, so what have they been doing? How did they fare? Why were they created? Are they achieving the objectives of which they were created? So we've got Blessing Fubara here this morning. He's the Creative Director of Project Hope. Good morning. Thank you for coming on today.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
So, you know, sometimes, I think in 2023, the budget for NDDC was about 876 billion naira. And you'll expect, when you hear that, you'll expect that, goodness me, you can't talk about lack of jobs because the state governments, the NDDC, several interventions should be up and running. So now, let's talk about what the Commission is doing because there's a lot of expectation. How do we know? Because we know that before the NDDC board and the chair was confirmed, the MD, many thought, okay, it shouldn't be business as usual. It should be different things, different approach to ensuring that we don't keep losing tons of youths in this country. What is going on with this scenario?
Okay, Chamberlain, basically you started with the budget for NDDC, and when people hear about it, and we shouldn't worry about job creation. For me, I want to say, first of all, when you look at budget, then you should also look at the provisions for the budget. You know, we must take deliberate actions, and these deliberate actions must reflect in the budgeted provisions to show that, yes, there are special purpose vehicles that are provided for actions for job creation. But for us, like you asked, we have been on the journey to rebirth hope for the region. Now, the idea of rebirthing hope for the region, for the NDDC, is in tripartite action cardinals that we're looking at. There's been a whole lot of all of these insinuations about the Commission and what they are doing, their actions, their deliverables in line with the provisions and their mandate, like you rightly said, before this time. So we're looking at a commission this time that is poised and focused to do proper and sustainable actions that, of course, would involve job creation and regional development, which is in line with the mandate of the Commission. That's one. Secondly, for the Project Hope, you know, before this time, literally everybody will agree with me that the Niger Delta region surely needs hope. I was listening to your conversation, the both of you, while I was coming in, and you talked about the capital flights, the period when we had a lot of all of these IOCs in the region, of course. We'll also understand that this time there were service actions in the region, because if you talk about the companies and the industries, you look at their areas of services, then you look at if these areas are still functional. We know that the capital flight happened because of the insecurity, because of the agitations of the people for a better living, which every other time we keep saying it, that the people were wrongly misrepresented because of the pattern that we agitated for this better living. Otherwise, the Niger Delta people are quite enterprising, hospitable, and resilient that the entire world know. And that's one of the message that we have come to do with the Project Hope, apart from the fact that we are creating practical, sustainable jobs, which we'll talk about here, apart from the fact that we have also now set a structure that over time would show regional development. We are also looking at certain standards for a peaceful, transactional region.
Which is very key. The word key. Peaceful.
Very
Because
key.
if you ask few people, I mean, the impression that some may have, which of course people will always have their impressions, especially when a few things go wrong with all this pipeline vandalism and things like that. People wonder, the commission wants to create this database and build skill sets, and they ask themselves, so how is the commission going to handle that component, that impression people have about, look, if people have been used to a certain lifestyle, and this is not going to be like, you know, the job that will bring you hundreds of millions immediately, because look, easy come, easy go. So what is the mindset? How are they handling and approaching this one for those who may feel, look, why should I come and register with this and then wait for what, to get a job and queue, go to 30 days? I don't have that time. I could just go do something quick and get some money. How are you grappling with that?
Chamberlain, now let's look at the issue of data. For us, we think data is very fundamental to a people, to every level. Data is first us a parameter for proper planning, because you can't help people, you can't develop people without knowing the people. Everywhere else in the world, systems operate and plan with data. So for us, I think one of the first major points that we have broken to show that the region is now ready is the fact that the region, amongst all of the regions in the country, is the only region now that can proud of a youth resource potential database. There's a lot to do with the data that we're doing already. The first thing first that I will tell you here is, in the issue of commitment must be paired and matched with passion, with interest, with qualification, with skill. What we've been doing since we started the data collation, we started analysis of these resource potentials as well. That I'll tell you about where we see now that we have some states where if you look at their qualifications, what they actually graduated with from school, is it relevant to the predominant service system in that state before you start talking about job? These are some of the issues and fundamental facts that you must get when analyzing data. You see a place where out of 100% of graduates from this place, about 60 of them are basically lawyers, while the service system in the place, of course, needs consultancy for business service, for industrial sustainability and profit. Then you see that the jobs will be limited. So at that point, when you also now go further to check, out of this 70% that are lawyers, how many of them have passed out of law school to show that, yes, they are employable? So we're actually looking at how to analyze these potentials, first of all, to see how many of us are employable.
Okay. You know, I don't remember hearing any of the governors in the region refer to this as part of the platforms they're using for distribution of palliatives. So if this data gathering is that important, why didn't that happen? Did it happen in the first place? And besides, is there supposed to be some sort of connection to that?
Okay, now, first of all, NDDC is an institutional authority. They are the principal intervention agency that is poised with the responsibility of regional facilitation and development. The state government is also a government authority. Now, in the prospect of partnership for the project, like we have outlined, we will come to the stage where all the states will come on board. But because NDDC is an institutional authority, we want to see that we deliver to the latter, where the foundations of the project would be sustainable. Now we're talking about statistics authority. Data is not something you just put out open there for everybody to start getting into. First, we're trying to make sure that we stabilize collation. We launched on the 12th of July. From the 12th of July till date, I'll tell you, we have almost 300,000 data in the system, but that's not enough, because people would see this to some of those persons, just like you rightly said, that would only have access to these registrations and facility. We also should know that around the nooks and crannies, the locales of the region, there are people that wouldn't have Android access. There are people that wouldn't have internet access. So again, in line with the timeline of the project, we have been trying to also escalate these coalitions across the 185 local governments of the region to be sure that it's not basically like this is some of the major fact that will hold us before we start engagement. No, but let everybody have the right. And as I speak to you, I will tell you 75% of the entire 185 local government have commenced registration. We're still at it because our target is to see that from the 1st of December, when their employment started, even though we engaged them before then, we had to take them through some trainings. Like I said, after analyzing the data, you see there's so much to do before you deploy these individuals to any organization.
You know, interesting things you've reeled out. For me, I'm excited about the youth resource potential database. It's quite interesting. And the fact that you're able to now say, okay, the educational qualification in a different state can also help in determining the kind of jobs that are created. But the Chamberlain asked a question. At what point in the guidance of this, because the state governors are there, and they will tell you that they are residents, they are their citizens. So at what point does the NDDC hope to, how long would it take to even come together with the state government in the creation of these jobs or in the planning of employment for the youth of the region?
Okay, first of all, talking about creation of jobs, we've started, we'll get there. Practically, we'll reel out those we've employed and for the reason. Now, straight to your question.
We'll still get to the part about where you're employing.
Yeah, we'll get there. But straight to your question. As I speak to you, like I said, there is a prototype for the partnership according to the blueprint that we have developed. We are already notified the entire state government. As I speak to you, we have a running partnership with Rivers State government already, which is in practice, but we have already started the process of partnership with the entire local government council through the Algon, which is also part of the government at the state level. Why? Because we are trying to see how to stabilize community participation and involvement in it. Once we have that stabilized, then we'll come upland to the state. Now, why we will need the state? We need certain authorizations, we need certain facilities to aid the process of engagement. This is at the point where the state government would come in. But as I speak to you, notifications for prospect partnership have been sent out to them. But in line with our blueprint from January, when we get to the major holistic opportunities, we are going to now bring them on board. We have an onboarding process.
Again, really interesting. But let's look at this thing. For a people or a set of youth who are used to quick money, they are used to, I do this, I get the money I need. And now you want me to come sit down for 30 days and then you come and give me what some might consider not that it's bad. Some might consider it a pittance.
We understand this. Let me tell you something first of all.
So hold on. While you're doing gathering the database, is there something that has to do with mindset reorientation?
That's where I'm coming to. Okay. First, what I wanted to note you is I'm also from the region. We are from the region. You are as well. So what this means is we've been part of the storyline. We know what to do right if we really want to do right. Now, where I was coming to is the data is not even for the purpose of benevolence employment, where they wait for 30 days. One of the major facts that we want to show people is outside qualification in employment, which to also think is benevolent, you can match interest, skills, and status to create job. For us to create job properly, if we know what you can do, a whole lot of Nigerians, I stand to be corrected. Every platform I stand, I want to say that Niger Delta youth over the world have proved themselves to be some of the most enterprising and resourceful youth around the world. Look at our achievements and antecedents in every sector, competitively, resourcefully around the world. So what we're doing now is, apart from qualification identification we're also doing skills identification, passion identification, and status quo. So we can now merge to do what you want to do. If we engage a platform for you, for what you want to do, we want to believe that you're going to create more opportunities for others. So for us, we're building a sustainable template that is going to be engaging with who and what you are.
Let me quickly ask you, thank you, Director. Let me quickly ask you, how about community engagement? This is not the first time, I'm sure you remember, Mr. Fubara, Ambassador Fubara, that we've heard of employment or, job creation for the young people in the Niger Delta. So how about engagement? Two things play out in my head right here now. One is the sustainability. How far with the initiatives that preceded this one? And two, community engagement. What kind of interface has come out? Have you engaged? Have you performed? Or have you had with the intended beneficiaries of this initiative to ascertain that this is exactly what they need? Job creation as opposed to whatever else, maybe infrastructural upgrades that will help them to ensure that whatever jobs are created eventually, they are sustainable. So talk to us about the sustainability of previous initiatives before this one and community engagement to ascertain that indeed this is what the people need.
Okay. Thank you very much. First of all, you ended with talking to you about the success of previous engagement. I wouldn't want to go about the issues of previous engagement, but rather I will start with the statement of the problem, which is one of the reasons why we created a solution that we think is practically sustainable. And one of the statements of the problem, according to our research, is one, we've not been doing these other engagements you're trying to talk about with a parameter, which I've been mentioning everywhere. When I say parameter, you don't come start planning programs for people on your own without knowing their skills, without knowing their qualifications, without knowing what they're already doing and what they have passion to do. These are some of the things that sustains every engagement you're doing for an individual. That's one. Secondly, talking about community engagement, I think this is top-notch for us with the project. In the course of this, what we have here, it's a report, a term report of the project, which we intend will also make it available for you, the media, because we need your partnership for proper strategic communication. Now, we drew up a system that would integrate NDDC at the level, the headquarters level, to the state level, then to the local government level. You ask me how? Because we think that if you must develop a people, there must be a need for needs assessment, which is one of the tenets that we are getting from the database that we're doing, apart from potential analysis we're doing as well. Now, since last month, precisely from the 12th of last month again, we started the onboarding process. The onboarding process in the project has to do with onboarding of our international partners for the agro-community industrializations, which we're done with. I will get to that. Then again, onboarding of community interests and partnership. Now, this onboarding of community interest and partnership has to do with we getting into the community, having consultations with youth groups, having consultations with the elders, the chiefs, and of course the community people, because in our prototype, the community partnership gives us the land access for establishments, So apart from the land access for establishment, which is their own equity in partnership, we're also doing sensitization for them to see the benefits of the project and see how to include community participation in the establishment and running of these industries at the community level. One, the purpose for the database is that we are now going to match relevant qualifications and criteriums that we would need for the operations of these industries from the community. Hence, we have a database. It's easy for us to assess, analyze, and see, the potentials that will be required for this A to Z chain establishment we're doing. Which means community involvement is paramount, which means community support is key, which is a lead for us to sustainability. Yeah. So for us, entirely, all we're doing is, for the first time, let's have the community carried along in the process of development. Let's have the youths carried along in the process of planning for them, for sustainability.
Indeed, quite a lot that you're doing there, and I'd like you to take a deep dive into what's inside your database following your assessment, particularly because earlier on you talked about a mismatch between the qualifications of those that have registered and the eligibility that you require for the available jobs. So if you have covered just 75% of 185 local governments, and for the benefit of those who are in the local governments in the Niger Delta who are watching right now and would still like to register, what are the requirements? What's the designation, the job description for the prevalence of jobs that are available, for the youths of the Niger Delta? And, for those who have not been employable following your assessment, what's the intervention that you can provide such that they don't miss out on this opportunity that Project Hope is offering the youths of the Niger Delta? I wonder if you catch my drift.
Yes, I really do. So to respond to you aptly, first of all, I'd like to get the facts clear on the issue of what we have achieved so far of 75% commencement of collation. That's not the end of it. Like I said, from the date when we started the process of employment for the people who want to use as collation officers and local government supervisors, which in the prototype of the project, the NDDC now have decided that they must have a desk at the local government level so that the progress and the platforms of NDDC can also, trickle down to that level. We've achieved that. Now, outside the employment we did, of course, this is humanly. We have to also be very sincere at this point, at every point of delivery, because a lot has happened, which I think the results we got had to do with our sincerity of purpose as well. Now, we are supposed to employ 370 persons, which is 2% per LGA times 185 LGA. We did employ 370 persons as the system sent out messages to, because I will tell you the process that we also use to ensure that there's no new marginalization in the process of selection. Now, out of the 370 people, we had to start moving around to the local government by ourselves with my team for the first time to see that we have a direct contact approach with these persons, to also correct the selection of the system to be sure that we're on point for the criteria we will need. In this process, I will tell you that at the end of the day, we ended up having a 270 that actually fit and match. When I say fit and match, some of them were not staying at the local government area, which is one of the criteria that we needed to be sure that you reach out to the people directly for verification and validation. Now, some of them, between the short time that we wanted to engage and deploy, already had plans, some to go for youth service, some to be redeployed out of their places. So we considered all of these ones, which, as I speak to you, as of yesterday, messages have also been resent to the people that will fill up these spaces. Now, for us as a target, from 1st of December, they started the collation proper at the local government level. Now, we're also going through some bureaucratic processes. You know how government works. For them to have access to the LGA with the permission of the authority that we sorted for from the Algon, the processes of meeting the chairman, when he's around, when he's not around, and all of this, we're still on top notch with it to see that this must happen, that between now to the end of January, all local government must have been stabilized for registration.
Well, just conclude on that.
Yeah, let me conclude. The very important one that she asked about the jobs here. The issue of the people that are unemployable, as part of the scheme, we have an internship exercise whose purpose for the internship is one, apart from the fact of creating job, to also now rewriting, the skills and, of course, expertise of our youths. For some of them, when we say they are unemployable, it's not necessarily work ethics or character or even expertise. Sometimes you see that their documentation, which is also paramount for any employment in Nigeria, is not up to date. So we're doing all of this. But notwithstanding, the jobs we are creating is in different sectors. We're doing paid jobs, we're doing labor jobs, we're doing skilled jobs, we're doing professional jobs. Okay. And of course, we're doing entrepreneurial development.
I know you know that people will be disappointed if they raise their hopes and this doesn't fall through. So they'll be expecting the NDDC and the governments in the region to make this work for them. So we'll be keeping tabs on that and hope that all of these go as planned.
We have a timeline, and we're also ready to share the timeline with you, the media, because one of the major appeal we even want to appeal is we need the partnership of the media, not just the government, for strategic communication. All right. So we get it right this time.
All right, we'll do. Thank you for coming on. Blessing Fubara, Creative Director, Project Hope. We will be back in a moment, and then we'll be back to talk about the scenarios in Kaduna. So stay on with us.
It's been days since the military attack incident at Tundumbiri village in Kaduna State that claimed lives of at least 85 persons and left 87 others injured. The army has since admitted responsibility for the attack, with the Chief of Army Staff Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja apologizing during his visit to the community over the matter and promising that such will never happen again.
That unfortunate incident of Sunday the 3rd of December 2023 is grave, it's regrettable, but we will do everything possible to prevent such an occurrence happening again in the conduct of our operations going forward.
On Thursday, Nigeria's Vice President, Mr. Kashim Shettima, leads a federal government delegation to Kaduna State to condone the government and victims of the unfortunate incident. At the hospital, the Vice President makes donation to the victims and promises that the federal government will do everything within the ambit of the law to bring those responsible for the incident to book.
The President was deeply touched by what happened. I would like to assure the government and people of Kaduna State that the government will take all measures to protect, preserve, and promote the interests of our people. The victims will be taken care of under the canopy of the Polaco initiative. We will commence work by next month, and that community will be the first community to be rebuilt in the northwest sub-region.
So far, the Kaduna State government has been providing relief materials to the victims, including footing the medical bills. But Governor Ubasani adds that the government will provide more support to the victims, just as he welcomes call for a thorough investigation into the drone attack.
They have seen the condition of the victims of the unfortunate incident that happened in Tudunbiri, in Apaka ward, Igabi local government. But I'm very happy with the government, federal government response to my call for immediate probe and investigation into the incident. Today, Mr. President have responded positively by insisting that there will be investigation, and they will make sure that it's done as soon as possible, and the result of the investigation will be made public to Nigerians.
After his engagement at the hospital, the Vice President meets with religious and traditional leaders at the Executive Council Chamber of Sir Kashim Ibrahim House, where he appeals for calm and understanding over the unfortunate incident.
We were at the hospital to sympathize with the victims and be rest assured that the federal government stands by the community affected and the government and people of Kaduna State. The President approved the commencement of the Polaco initiative by next month. The Polaco initiative is the President's unique response as a non-kinetic solution to the challenges in the Northwest.
The drone attack incident at Tudunbiri village has received condemnation locally and internationally, with calls for investigations and a review of all military procedural activities. However, the public hopes that the outcome of the federal government's probe into the incident, as promised by the Vice President, will be made public and recommendations from it implemented to stop a repeat of such unfortunate incident in the future.
Welcome back. Yes, indeed, we're joined by His Excellency Obasani, Governor of Kaduna State. Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yes, lots of scenarios have played out there. The Vice President's visit conveying the message from the President. But commiserations to yourself and the people of Kaduna State and those who've lost their loved ones in that unfortunate incident. But how are you going on now with, because, I mean, you spoke about relief materials. What's going on? Has that kicked on? How are you coordinating everything at the moment?
Thank you very much again for having me. I think the situation is calm now because Kaduna government was very proactive in reacting to the situation. Of course, it was an unfortunate incident where we lost at the moment about 86 people, 76 in the hospital, one was lost. Now we have lost about 87 people as we're speaking. The community leaders, the religious leaders have been very cooperative with the government because we called for immediate proper investigation into the incident, and they are happy Mr. President responded positively by initiating the investigation. And from my conversation with Mr. President, he assured me that he will try to conclude this investigation as soon as possible so that those culpable in this very unfortunate incident will be dealt decisively, because from our understanding, these situations happened in the past and nothing was done. But in this government, under this is the first time we're experiencing this unfortunate incident. And I have no doubt Mr. President will certainly conduct a thorough investigation, and I have no doubt in my mind those that were found culpable will be dealt with. That is number one. Number two, Mr. President also responded to my own call for compensation to the families of those that lost their lives and those in the hospital. Yesterday, Mr. Vice President made it clear. It was when we met with him, along the traditional religious leaders and leaders of the community, he assured us that federal government will also rebuild the entire community, pay compensation to them, build hospitals, schools to the community. So what I can say here is that we as government of Kaduna State will continue to follow up on this investigation and ensure that everything is done within a time frame. But on our part, the Kaduna State government have been supporting the families with a lot of palliatives. We've done that from the first day, the incident. And those in the hospital, Kaduna State government are looking after them, paying their medical bills. And those that lost their parents completely, because we have a family that of about 8, both the father and the mother were killed. Now about 7 children are in the hospitals. So we will try as much as possible to look after them. And the Kaduna State government assured that the community that will not let anyone, will make sure that we look after them. The responsibility of our government is to protect the lives and properties of the citizens of Kaduna State. And as the leader of the state, I will try to fight for them and ensure that justice is done at the end of the day.
Okay, well, it's part of why I think everybody wants to see, because yes, you've spoken about the fact that government says they will investigate and ensure that, look, if anything went wrong, whoever might have been culpable, they need to just face the music, because the ultimate intention is to ensure that these kind of things don't happen again, not just in Kaduna, but anywhere else in the country, because you can't afford to lose lives as a mistake or as an error. So that's not what we want. But at the moment, and it's also good to hear you say that compensation is in the works, relief materials, because people's lives can't be on hold, especially in this kind of case. So that is something that needs to be addressed. But about that plan by the government to rebuild the town, do we have timelines? Because you know how bureaucracy can be, and before you know it takes forever. What is happening about that? Do you have information as to timelines, or what do you expect from government, and then how state government can also come in and make sure it happens quicker than before?
We're having conversation between myself and the Vice President. And Mr. President is the one in charge of a particular program of the federal government that is Blacko Initiative. The program is supposed to start in Sokoto in the next 1 month. But because of this incident, the program is starting in Kaduna. So the whole community will be reviewed. And from Mr. Vice President yesterday, he assured me, even this morning I called him, he assured me that the rebuilding of the community will start in the next 3 to 4 weeks, maximum. But I won't be surprised if the whole rebuilding starts in the next 2 weeks, thereabout. And of course, we're optimistic. But the most important thing, like I said, we will not slow down in insisting that this investigation will be concluded within a time frame, like I said. Because when the unfortunate incident happened, for me, it's something that was shocking and very serious tragedy because the military have done this in the past. And of course, nothing really happened. But today, they have honored and they have taken responsibility. And for me, it's a way forward. So having taken responsibility, then we will have to fast track the investigation and ensure that those involved are dealt with decisively. That is, for me, is key and it's very important. That will make the community to also be a bit calm and satisfied if justice is done at the end of the day. That is what they have been talking about when I visited the families. And of course, as well as speaking, I'm talking to the families of the victims directly. Even the children that lost their parents, I'm talking with them directly. So I know their feelings. I know what they are thinking about. They want government to ensure that they've done thorough investigation into this incident and those involved are dealt with decisively. For me, it's something that is important. So call for justice is key in this situation. And of course, for the State government, like I said, we are providing them with all the necessary support because they are our citizens. And like I said, it's our responsibility to ensure that we look after them, we give them shelter, we supported them, we are doing that.
Your Excellency, indeed, it's a shocking and an unfortunate incident. Yes, indeed, that the army came up to own up to it is something that has brought some measure of relief around the country. But when this kind of things happen, there is that element of some groups of people that might want to take advantage of it to cause further divisions. But is there a way that this is being looked at to ensure that instead of bringing about divisions amongst the people, it would help to unify the people the more?
I think, I don't know which, can you be specific about the kind of division you're thinking about so that I can be able to answer it properly? Is it, because yesterday someone was talking about a religious issues here. So can you be specific so that I can be able to answer it?
Indeed, you've already gone to that part about where some people might want to say is religious or is ethnic cleansing or whatever it is. So that, let's see, because communication at this point in time in situations like this is really vital. So what kind of communication will you be putting out there to ensure that there's no division amongst the people while the investigations are going on? And even as the government has said, those who are found culpable will be punished at the end of the day.
So let me make it clear to you. In Kaduna State, as we are speaking, we don't have any religious or ethnic differences. Like I said, at the beginning, of course, a lot of people were, particularly the religious merchants and ethnic merchants. I'm not surprised if some of them at the beginning decided to make this issue look like it is a religious issue. But as far as I'm concerned, as a governor of Kaduna State, yesterday when the Vice President came in and his delegation, they saw what happened at our chamber. Both the Khan leader, Reverend Hayab, and Jamaat Nasser Islam leader in Kaduna State, Professor Shafiu, they came there with some numbers of imams and pastors and reverends to the government house. In Kaduna, today, we are not talking about any religious differences or ethnic differences. Of course, we are one people, and I made it clear. We are going to be fair to everyone. And let me even make it clear to you that even the Christian community under the leadership of the current chairman came out openly and sympathized and commiserated with the people of Tudunbiri in the local government. So in Kaduna, we were working together. We have interreligious harmony. We came together as a team to go to the site. Even the Khan were there, the Jene were there. So we're working as one family. The issue of Southern Kaduna, Northern Kaduna is history. We work together as one family. There's no any religious differences. And for those who initially wanted to change the narrative, we have been able to tackle them. We are no more talking about any affiliation in Kaduna State. Of course, we're talking about development. Development is about unity. It's about justice. It's about equality. And here in Kaduna, that is the key. So I'm happy both Muslim and Christian came together when this incident happened and look at the issue critically. We're talking about humanity here. And for me, is the key. So I want to thank the religious leaders, both the GNI and the CAD, for coming together to work together to ensure that the families of this unfortunate incident are looked into and they give them comfort. So that is for me the key. But some of the few elements, like I said, who are ethnic religious merchants, we will not stop. And of course, but we will not listen to them. We will continue to ignore them.
Well, Your Excellency, good morning, and our commiserations with you and the people of Kaduna State. And just to quickly follow up with Nyota's question about the religious angle to it, though you may have, clarified some things, but beyond the view that is held back home, this view is also held in the international community. And I'd like to quote briefly from the UN Special Envoy on the prevention of genocide, Ms. Nderitu. Following the attack in Nasarawa State that led to the killing of 37 people, 27 of them being cattle herders just this year, she says, just to quote a few of her words, these dynamics of targeting communities along identity lines, if unaddressed, risk further fueling intercommunal tensions, recruitment by armed groups, and retaliatory attacks. I wonder if this is part of your concern at the State Security Council in Kaduna State, that this is the approach of the military in fighting, in the counterterrorism war. And are you worried also that this could fuel further radicalism and, divide the communities in Kaduna State along ethnic lines?
And of course, thank you very much. I think our situation in Kaduna is completely different from that of other states. Of course, since I was elected on the 29th of May, May 29, what we try to do in Kaduna is to bring everyone together, to work together as one family, and that is what we are benefiting from now. That is the reason why the community leaders of Tudunbiri in the local government, even yesterday, made it clear that even within those that were killed by the fortunate incident, about 3 of them were Christians. And of course, they live together as one family, Tudunbiri, irrespective of any religious affiliation. So, of course, something like this is really very worrisome. It's, when you find a community that's vulnerable or a state that's vulnerable, that can lead to communal or religious differences, could lead to a lot of agitations, and some people can take advantage, like I said, the religious merchants and create a different narrative. But in Kaduna, I can say clearly that everyone empathize with the victims, irrespective of religious or ethnic affiliation. And of course, I agree with you, and the United Nations reports that in some communities or states that are vulnerable, people can cash into this and create a very wrong narrative and create more division within the community and religious leaders as well as ethnic leaders. But I'm happy in Kaduna this is not happening because everyone here is involved in governance. Everyone is a stakeholder. Everyone is consulted. So we work as a team. And that is the reason why, since the incident happened, nobody in the community has made any statement trying to look at any angle, whether it's religious or ethnic angle. So I'm happy in Kaduna, we are not thinking about that. We are working as one family, and I'm happy about that. So there's no any escalation of any tension. What they are asking for, what they can, and the GNI is justice. They want thorough investigation. They want those culpable to be dealt with. Government must take an action so that this kind of incident will not happen again anywhere in Nigeria. And we want to set Kaduna as an example, fighting for justice in this very unfortunate incident, so that the military will be careful. The military will also be a bit cautious in the way they handle this issue. We will continue to support the security agencies. We know here in Kaduna, particularly along the southern Kaduna Aziz and Beningwari, as well as Ikabi, as we've lost a lot of military personnel also in the course of their fight against terrorism. That is the reason why, as the governor, I told our people to be cautious, to be calm, because the military have also made some sacrifices. And most of their personnel were killed. Only about 3 weeks ago, there was an ambush in Beningwari where about 7 military personnel were killed by terrorists. So I can say that though we want a thorough investigation, we want those involved in this incident to be able to avoid further occurrence of this kind of incident. But I will also call on our people to continue to support the military personnel, continue to support the security personnel, so that we can jointly end this problem of insecurity in our state and our country.
You know, sir, we hope that your optimism produces results in the coming days, particularly with regards to relations between ethnic groups in Kaduna State. And we can't say it enough that the ultimate is deterrence about these kind of occurrences in the future, which is why I'm going to ask this next question, Your Excellency. The President, through the Vice President, has provided assurances that whoever is found culpable will be punished. But if we went by, you know, past accidental bombings ran in Borno, Niger State, Nasarawa State, if investigations were ever conducted, there was no outcome. Nothing was made public. So why should we take seriously assurances this time that an independent inquiry will be conducted and, of course, whatever the outcome of the inquiry will be made public? Why should we take these assurances seriously this time?
Yeah, I'm having the full assurance from Mr. President, because the President is someone that when this incident happened, myself and him spoke about 3 to 4 times. And of course, he's very worried. The Vice President is also worried and concerned about the incident. And of course, that is the reason why even the military, the Chief of Army Staff came out openly and on up and took responsibility to what happened. And for me, it's a step forward. In the past, neither the military, neither the Army nor the Air Force were able to take responsibility. When this incident happened, let me make it clear to you. First, I called the Chief of Defense Staff, and he assured me I should give him a few hours to investigate. I called the Chief of the Air Staff immediately, and he told me clearly that he did his investigation. The Nigerian Air Force were not involved in that wrong attack. Then I called the Chief of Army Staff, and before I even spoke with the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Defense Staff called me back and honored that it was the Army that were involved in the unfortunate incident. So for me, we're making progress because they can honor both the service. I called them and they all explained to me that if they were involved, they will tell me who was involved. So that is a step forward. Taking responsibility for me is a major step forward. In the past, no one took responsibility. And I called Mr. President, he assured me there will be thorough investigation and those culpable will be dealt with decisively. For me, it's another step in the right direction. So for me, we're making progress. What happened in the past has happened, and we also have to continue to agitate for justice for those affected in the past. But as we are speaking here in Kaduna, As the governor, I will follow up. I will insist to make sure that the federal government investigation is done within a time frame, so the justice will be done, because the people cannot continue to wait. What they are asking is justice. When I met in the hospital, even on their hospital bed yesterday, they were calling for justice. And I think, for me, is the key to ending this unfortunate incident.
Well, Your Excellency, those questions are quite valid, given that what some of us, what my colleague would say from time to time, you know what someone will do by what he has done before. So if we've had this kind of misgivings before, perhaps it's a reason to have to receive your own assurances over and over again, so that those who are watching, perhaps even some of the victims, will be assured that indeed you are quite determined. I can't even begin to imagine how you are, taking this as a person. Yes, you are governor of Kaduna State, but you are also an individual. You are a father, so you must have some feelings about this whole thing. While dealing with your own emotions, you also have to deal with the issue of governance around this. So, again, commiserations to you and your people. Now, we've been receiving, of course, a lot of reactions have been coming from here and there. One of the issues that some people are already reacting to is that of the number of people who are involved in this. Already we are aware that as at yesterday, the death toll has risen to 127. And Amnesty International is saying that they are compiling a list of the deceased and that they will publish once they can confirm names. And they are also expecting that the government of Kaduna State will give them some authentic list. So can you, if you don't mind, confirm to us the number of people who have been directly affected, either the number of the deceased, if you have the figures, and the number of those who are wounded?
Yeah, like I said, for me, because probably I'm the only person dealing with the families directly, the parents, the victims, those in the hospital, and those that are displaced there in the community, because they're talking to me directly. I'm not sure if there's any organization or group that have brought the entire community together and sat with them, as well as their leaders or community leaders. But as a government, it's my responsibility. I don't think there's anyone that's more concerned than me sitting here, who is elected to protect the lives and properties of my citizens. And of course, because of that, I will not talk along. I don't believe that I should be able to talk about a figure that is not confirmed. But what is confirmed, as we are speaking right now, by the community, by the families that are visited directly, is that we've lost 87 persons right now. And out of the 87 persons, 86 were killed at the beginning. We took 76 to the hospital. Out of the 76, one died in the hospital. Of course, about 4 of them have been going through operation surgery in the Borodi hospital and one in the 44 hospital. And when I visited them yesterday, even those that are going through operation and surgeries, they are recovering. And I visited them, I spoke with them, with their families. So I think as of today, my figure is showing that we've lost about 86, now 87 yesterday. And of course, we will try as much as possible to ensure that those in the hospital we don't lose anyone. We have qualified doctors. We are giving them all the necessary medical attention. And of course, we are even bringing specialists to also support them. We are praying for their hospital bills. I am optimistic that by the grace of God, we are not going to live another life in the hospital.
Well, we say we say amen to that, Your Excellency. Well, there's something that you mentioned in response to Chamberlain's question earlier about the federal government's Polaco initiative. 3 times we've heard the federal government talk about it. Once, and 2 of those times have had to do with such a situation as has happened here in Kaduna State. And we also understand that not too long ago, the federal government approved 50 billion naira for the Polaco initiative, and that A total of 1,000 houses will be constructed in 7 states, according to the federal government. The Vice President's office made that information available. Can you tell us what other things are involved in this Pulaku initiative in a way that will help to stem the tide of this banditry and this criminality in the Northwest?
Okay, thank you very much. At the beginning, the Pulaku initiative was about the Northwest only. But when we sat down with the Vice President as the chairman of the NEC, we made some observation, and because he's someone who is very considerate about and concerned about the situation generally, he also decided to include 2 more states from the Middle Belt. That is, apart from Kaduna, Katsina, Sokoto, Kebbi, in the Northwest, 5 states minus Kano and Jigawa, because Kano and Jigawa are not involved. But other 5 states from the Northwest will be involved in the Pulaku initiative. Then in the Middle Belt, 2 states were considered to replace Kano and Jigawa. The 2 states in the Middle Belt, that is North Central Zone, we have Niger State and Benue State. Because Benue State and Niger State have their own share of banditry attacks. So that is the reason why 2 states from the Northwest were removed, and Niger and Benue State were included. So at the moment, it's 7 states, 5 from the Northwest and 2 from the North Central. That is what is happening at the moment. And initially, the Pulaku initiative were, according to the plan, was to start in Sokoto State. But now it has changed because of the unfortunate incident that have obstructed the initiative and start in Kaduna State. That is 1,000 houses will be built in Kaduna State. The northern part of Kaduna will have 500 houses. And of course, we have chosen Tudunbiri to be the first community to benefit from this initiative. Of course, Tudunbiri in the local government is part of the northern part of Kaduna. Then we are going to build another 500 houses simultaneously in the southern part of Kaduna. Because here in Kaduna, I made it clear that we need to build 500 in northern part of Kaduna and 500 houses in southern part of Kaduna. Because both sides were also involved in a series of banditry attacks in the recent past. So that is the reason why we decided to do 500 in northern part, 500 in southern part, because we believe both parts of Kaduna State deserve houses to be built for the displaced families.
Indeed, Your Excellency. Pardon me, Ayo. Perhaps we could reflect yet again on why this happened. And right after, earlier in the week, the military put out some statements. And the first, coming from the general officer commanding 1 division, who said that, it was a routine mission against terrorists, but inadvertently it affected members of the community. And the army since apologized. But another that came from the defense headquarters was to the effect that terrorists often deliberately embed themselves within civilian population. Your Excellency, how are you reconciling these 2 statements from the Nigerian military explaining what happened? And can you tell us if indeed Igabi local government area is a flashpoint or an area known for terrorist operations?
And I think the first statement by the chief of Army Staff, General Labaja, I think that's the one I taken serious, because the second statement by the PRO of the Nigerian Army, I think I've not that in my mind. I'm trying to reach out to the Chief of Army Staff for him to see that they have to withdraw that statement, because we're not talking about, like I said earlier, we are going to continue to support the Army and the military generally, as well as the other security agencies in fight against terrorism and insurgency in Kaduna State. But What happened in Tudunburi, in the local government, something that is unfortunate, is avoidable, like I said, because but the fact that the chief of army staff took responsibility, he made it clear to all that it's unfortunate. He said the chief of defense staff took responsibility, and that is the reason why the community are calm. But to say that some of the terrorists in the community is something that needs verification. You know, I think it's a very careless statement when I heard it yesterday. Because if you visit the hospital and see what's happening as we're speaking, you will condemn statement like this. So I don't want to emphasize on this statement. I believe the statement of the Chief of Army Staff, the statement of Mr. President, the statement of Mr. Vice President, and that of the Minister of Defense and the NSA is the one I'm taking more seriously, because I think these are the statements that are responsible, and they show a lot of empathy. And for me, it's the time to show empathy. It's not the time to be making excuses. For me, is what is key here, because the families, we are trying to calm them down. We are trying to make them understand that this situation, the Kaduna government will fight for justice. So, but making excuses before the investigation is concluded, I think is unnecessary. Let's allow the federal government investigate this thoroughly, and let's know the outcome of the investigation as soon as possible. And if some people are found culpable, they must be dealt with decisively. That, for me, is what we should be agitating. Is what we should be talking about at this critical time.
You know, you spoke about the Polaku initiative. Is it just going to be houses, or what exactly should we expect from alongside that? Can you hear me, Your Excellency? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not sure you heard that because I lost communication myself. I was asking Your Excellency if the Polaku initiative is just going to be about houses, or is it a total rebuild of communities and lifestyle and such other facilities? Could you check if you're muted? That we can't hear you from here. We still can't hear you, Excellency. Maybe they need to check if it's somewhat muted.
Right.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, it's back now. Go ahead, please.
Okay. So what I'm saying, in essence, is it's not about building houses only. The Polaku initiative is about building community. The whole community will be built. And that comprises building houses, building hospitals, building schools, and also providing the farmers there with adequate land for farming. And the federal government will also support the farmers within the community to do their farming. So it's like building the entire community. They're going to build infrastructure there, providing houses, providing hospitals, schools, all the basic infrastructure, water, electricity, they are all going to be involved. So that is the initiative of Polaku initiative. And that's why I'm saying that in Kaduna, 500 houses will be built in northern part of Kaduna. We are going to select the areas in northern part of Kaduna, but like I said, Tudunburi will be the first community to benefit, not only in Kaduna, but the whole of Nigeria.
I know that I know that the governors work with the security agencies to ensure they have proper coordination. We also know, of course, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. So, but in this particular matter, when you said you were shocked about it, some people will be wondering, wait a minute, does that mean that there isn't any form of communication that goes on before this kind of scenario happens as between yourself and the security agencies? Because, I mean, you are the chief security officer in the States.
No, but I want you to understand. Are you talking about before the operation by the army?
Before the operation, yes.
But let me make it clear, because you see, like I said, if you can recall vividly, I was in the National Assembly, particularly in the Senate. And when I was in the Senate, remember, I was the senator that sponsored the creation of state police in Nigeria. Why did I do that? Because here, if you look at the Constitution of Nigeria, governors have no powers to give orders, instruction to the army or to the police or to even the DSS. Yes, as the chief officer of the state, you will continue to support the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, the DSS, and all the security agencies in our state. We are doing that. We are providing them with all the necessary support, technology, resources, and everything for them to work with the government and ensuring that we end the insecurity. But in terms of giving directives to the Nigerian Army or the Nigerian Police Force or even the DSS, it is not the responsibility of the state government by our constitution as of today. I don't know whether the constitution will be amended in the future, whether the agitation for the creation of state police will now be initiated by the 10th Senate, because when I was in the Senate, I sponsored the creation of the state police. It was passed at the level of the Senate, but we lost it at the level of the conference committee between the House of Reps and the Senate. So that was what happened. So for me, it's something that is constitutional. I only heard about the operation when the incident happened, because it was my commissioner of internal security that called me and said, look, this is what's happening at the moment. So within 2 minutes, I reached out to the chief of defense staff, General Christopher Musa, he's from Kaduna State. I talked to him because we're working closely with the CDS and even the DSS in Kaduna, as well as the Office of the NSA in Abuja, to look at the non-kinetic approach to this problem of insecurity. So we're making progress. When this thing happened, that's why I said I was shocked, because I was not aware of any operation. Of course, even only a few weeks ago, if you can remember, I was able to convince the airline to start flying from Kaduna. Airplane started and other airlines started, and because at the beginning there were some security report that the general area of the airport is not safe. But from my own intelligence, I gathered through the DSS and other security agencies, we were completely assured that that area is safe. And that is the reason why airlines started flying. And Tudunbiri community is not far from the Kaduna International Airport. So for me, the insinuation that the place is not safe is what I don't understand. Of course, the community gathered because of Maulud celebration. And that kind of gathering only happens once in a year. So probably because the military saw a gathering without adequate intelligence, they strike at them. But on the normal day, the villagers are doing their normal activities. They don't have to gather together. They don't have to work as together. So that's the reason why, for me, it's about taking responsibility. Maybe that is the reason why the Chief Army Staff took responsibility, because he was the GOC War Mechanized Division here in Kaduna for years before he became the Chief of Army Staff. So he's aware of the situation. And I'm sure some members of the Army, without probably adequate intelligence report, they decided to strike on the villagers and killed people in the community. So for me, it's something that everyone must be worried about. Everyone must also be concerned. And I have no doubt in my mind it's lack of intelligence that, because the Air Force, what I spoke with them, you are also not aware of the operation. It's not me alone, because Air Force are not also aware. They are not involved. So what I'm going to call is the military generally to work in synergy. They must work together as a team, because most of the general area in the last few months, I was made to understand that the Nigerian Air Force are also working. The Nigerian Army are working along the axis of Beningwari, Sultan Kaduna, and I insisted whenever we do our security council meeting in Kaduna, because we do security council meeting in Kaduna virtually every 2 weeks. And whenever we do the meeting, the GOC attend the meeting, even the head of the Air Force here will not attend the meeting, the Navy, the DSS, the police. So we always insist that we must work as a team, share intelligence so that we don't make mistakes. So when this unfortunate incident happened, chief of the air staff was also aware, close of myself. So that is what really happened.
All right, Your Excellency Obasani, Governor of Kaduna State, thank you very much indeed for your time here today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Also, clearly, I mean, it's important that coordination, sharing intelligence, it is key here. So I think lots of people already have an idea, an inkling of what to expect, or probably some elements of what may feature in that investigation here, because he said he spoke to the Air Force. Air Force, a little surprised at the moment. So we'll come back to some of these matters and talk about the NYSC as a matter of fact in just a moment. Don't go away.
Who's your guy? See how sweet they like beans and rice. Labour Party, I will never leave your side. I will never ever. I dedicate my time forever. Time to you, my people. Even if the road is rough, I know mine. 'Cause together we shall stand. Labour Party, who's your guy? See how sweet they like beans and rice. 'Cause together we
Welcome back. Well, just before we bring in Mr. Megwa, just a quick, some information coming through here. There's a collapsed pedestrian bridge at Alakwere Estate in the K2 axis of Lagos. Eyewitnesses say a fully loaded commercial trailer rammed into the bridge, bringing half of it down, and part of it is said to have fallen on the commercial bus, the one they popularly call Danfo, there in Lagos. Although thankfully, no deaths recorded, but at least 2 people are said to be seriously injured. And so the authorities are expected to just be in there and attend to people. So thankfully, yes, they're supposed to use the pedestrian bridge, but look at that. So we do hope that everyone will be careful, and the authorities, I think we'll see some officials of LASMA. So several others should be there to ensure traffic is properly directed or redirected as it were.
I guess the commercial, the trailer has been moved and all of that. The question I'd like to ask, where did it ram? Did it ram onto the pillars holding up the bridge, or was it, you know, sometimes some of these trailers are loaded to the height. So, and sometimes you just find that they're just below the bridge. VIO and all those other people, those are the people they should be checking, not hapless Nigerians who, don't let me go on about this, but thankfully, no life was lost, but we need to do much more. Be careful out there, everybody. So let's go on now and bring in Mr. Eddie Megwa, Director of Press and Public Relations for the NYSC. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you, my brother. Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
Yes, indeed. So ever since eight persons were kidnapped, 2 initially were rescued. We understand 2 more have been rescued, so you're waiting for some more. So tell us how the NYSC went about this one. Good news, and at least well done that so far 2 have been released, additional 2, so we're waiting for 4 more now. So what's the backstory concerning how this came through?
Oh, well, we really thank God. Yesterday, we were all excited to hear that 2 of our prospective corps members that were kidnapped in the Zamfara saga were rescued by the military. It's a thing to be happy. It's hope for all of us, hope for the family, that even the remaining 4, 2 girls, 2 boys, will still be rescued very soon. At least the hope is rising every day. It's been worrisome for us in this scheme over this number of months, that these young ones that are coming up to serve their fatherland were kidnapped on their way to Sokoto. Recall there were 11 in number, and 3 escaped at the point of kidnap, remaining 8 and the driver, and they took them to the bush. On the 1st of September, we were able to got 1 rescued. On the 20th of October, another girl was rescued. Just yesterday, we also have 2 out from the den of the kidnappers. And they are in the hospital getting medical attention. And I want to believe once they are strong, they will reunite with their families and get on with their national service. We're so happy and we're excited. The DG told the entire nation that we will stop at nothing to ensure that these prospective corps members are rescued unhurt, and that is what we are having. What just happened is that there is hope for the remaining 4 that are still in the kidnappers' name.
I mean, it was 2 days ago that there were some headlines, parents of some of these persons who were kidnapped were just saying the NYSC should not abandon the parents to their fate. So we'll be gladdening that these 2 have been released. And then you said there's hope for the other 4. Is there any communication whatsoever, any indication that these other 4 are still alive?
Oh yes. With what the military is doing, of course, you know, security issues are not supposed to be discussed open. But we have strong hope and believe that everything is good with them. And while they keep on making efforts to get them rescued, as soon as they are out, I'm sure all of us will be informed and we'll all be happy for it.
What message is NYSC? Okay, pardon me. Well, what message is the service putting out to persons who may feel, seeing this story, of course, wouldn't want their ward to be exposed to areas where this can happen, because this was on the road, for instance?
Yeah, Chamberlain, it's very clear that I said it the other time I was in your station. The NYSC and corps members, they are not insulated from the entire Nigerian nation. This kidnap issue is everywhere. And the only thing we need to do is to take precautionary measures so that we don't run into this main of underworld. And what are we supposed to do? Ensure you don't travel in the night. Travel when it's safe. Travel at the daytime. Once it's 6, break your journey. Rest somewhere. After that, then you continue your journey. Because for parents whose words were kidnapped, I'm sure they are going through serious grief, just as we in NYSC. But you know, if you take precautionary measures, just as we told them, this thing will not happen. If the driver of that vehicle had parked where others were parking, waiting for the military to see them through, or stay over till tomorrow morning, the next day, this thing wouldn't have happened. But some of them would be so insistent that they want to continue the journey, which is not good. The hope is stick to the rules and you'll be safe. It's just as simple as that.
Mr. Megwa, that incident that happened, was it at night it happened?
Oh, sure, it was in the night. It was in the night, my brother. It was in the night. And, you know, the roads are bad. That's one. Two, that Funtua road, till date, 166, nobody moves through that road again. In fact, the military will even tell you, hold on. When we see that it's safe for you to go, we can even see you across. If you dare to move on that road after 6, it's a dead end. You don't do that. But that driver defied all these instructions and moved. But well, that's story for the past. What we are focusing now is how the security will continue to intensify efforts to get the remaining 4 prospective corps members released so that they can reunite with their families and continue with their national service.
Okay, but then to the other corps members who are serving, I do know that in the next few days, some others are going to be passing out from different parts of the country, and they're going to be wanting to return to their homes. What is the message that you'll be putting out for them while we're hoping that these other 4 are released real quick?
Sure. We have given them all the necessary security tips at the orientation camp. But don't forget, by 14th, there would have been 21 days in the camp. And we are on them every minute, every hour in the orientation camp, okay? And we've given them everything they need to do to secure themselves. And top on the priority is that they must not travel in the night. They must not travel in the night. And we have alerted all security agencies, anywhere corps members will break and say they want to pass the night in any security organization, they will accord them all the rights and privileges for them to sleep.
Okay, Mr. Megwa, since you mentioned the camps, so let me just ask this question. There was this story that came out about the state of some of the NYSC camps. Is the NYSC doing anything about those camps, refurbishing and all of that, or rebuilding it where it need be?
Oh, yeah. Let me say this, that NYSC is run by 3 tiers of government. Okay? If you look at Section 3 of the NYSC Act, that's where it empowers the federal government through the directorate of the NYSC, now called the National Governing Board. Their responsibilities like paying the stipends, handling the feeding in camp and all that. Now, you go down in the Act, you look at Section 5 and 6, Section 6 and 7. You discover that is where the power of the state governing board is given to them. They are the one to produce and maintain the NYSC orientation camp. And as the number of corps members are increasing every day, it is expected that they expand the scope of the orientation camp, including all the accessories used in training these corps members. So it is not the responsibility of NYSC, it's the responsibility of state government. And with the advocacy, which the NYSC Director General is moving around with various state governors, most of them are coming up. Don't forget, a few months ago, NYSC started yet another orientation camp in Borno State. You need to go to see what the state governor is building there, improving the infrastructure in the orientation camp. And so also in most NYSC orientation camp nationwide. It's the state government responsibility. Most of them are living up to it. And for those that are not coming up, the advocacy is still going on for them to continue to do what they're supposed to do.
I don't know if I got your response. I ever read it when this was circulating at the time. In one of the handbooks that was usually given to corps members at the time, there was this clause, I think it was 56 or thereabouts, where I'm seeing C here, where it says, when traveling in high-risk roads such as Abuja, Kaduna, Abuja, Lokoja, Okene, or Aba, Port Harcourt's roads, then alert your family members, friends, and colleagues in order to have someone on hand to pay up the ransom that could be demanded. So that was circulating at the time, say it was from NYSC.
Yeah. Chamberlain, don't forget that this story trended, was trending many, I think about 2-3 years ago. And that pamphlet you have did not emanate from NYSC. You know, some unscrupulous elements went and fused that and started circulating just to malign the National Youth Service Corps. We have our handbook, we'll have our security tips, which will give our corps members. That's not how the NYSC, which is part of government of this Federal Republic, can go and put that kind of a thing and be circulating. It's not normal. You know, so that thing you're having does not emanate from the National Youth Service Corps.
So that's why, as Director of Press and Public Relations, you have to be on the watch all the time to ensure that you keep tabs.
Our eyes are on Sparrow all the time. You know, this maid of underworld cannot bring down this scheme. This scheme has done so much for this country, and where you are today, I'm sure you will give credit to the National Youth Service Corps. And these young ones, they have a lot to do to reshape the destiny of this country. And that is what we are doing with them.
Okay, we thank you for coming on this morning. Eddie Megwa, Director of Press and Public Relations of the NYSC. Well, I know that we have to go, but I see Mukhtar Mohammed reminding us of Section 138 of the Constitution that says the President shall not hold any other office, meaning he's not supposed to be the Minister of Petroleum, apart from being the President. Okay, that's the show today. Thank you all for watching. I think several people were asking us to, where is the money? Well, that's why we're asking them, where's the money? We'll see you all next week, and have yourselves a very lovely weekend, because we intend to do the same. I'm Chamberlain, so goodbye.
We will try to do same, but what we're trying to do, though, I'll advise you, do your best to rest and be good. I'm Neo Taigbe. Bye-bye.
Are you talking to me?
Well, we started off with hope this morning, and we're ending with hope that the remaining NYSC members will be rescued and reunited with their families. Thank you for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Yes, he is talking about you, Chamberlain. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend, everyone.
Wow! The citadel of morality, learning and academic excellence, and the oldest college in Igbo land, and indeed the southeast of Nigeria, Methodist College Uzuakoli, announces the celebration of 100 years of a modest doorway, passed by thousands of worthy human beings. Whoa! This